Every year, thousands of people drive off in cars that they can't actually afford, cars that are slowly draining their bank account, cars that are silently sabotaging their financial future. And by the time they even realize it, it's too late. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the brutal truth about how much car you can really afford before a dream ride turns into a financial nightmare. For many people, this is actually what happens, right? When they want to buy a car, they walk into a dealership, and in discussing with the salesperson, they make a mental on-the-spot calculation and affirm to that salesperson that they can afford maybe £250 monthly payment. And guess what? The salesperson would make that happen for you. They might do that by stretching your loan from maybe 3 to 5 or 6 years, maybe adding a massive balloon payment at the end that you cannot actually afford. But the reality is you drive away feeling like someone helped you achieve something. But let's look at some hypothetical numbers, right? Deal A versus deal B. So deal A, you're paying $299 per month for 3 years, and that's £10,000. While deal B, the same amount but for 6 years, and you're paying over £21,000. The same amount, the same monthly payments, but the second deal will actually cost you extra £10,000 plus. That could be a family holiday every year for 6 years. That's just gone. That could be a house deposit that has disappeared into thin air. You know, the entire car industry is built on the assumption that you won't actually do the math. That's what many people don't know. They want you to focus on monthly payments and not look at the whole picture. And yes, I get it, you might have to finance your car. I'm not against financing. I'm just saying do the math. Look at the whole picture. Get out of the monthly payment mindset where once you see I'm going to be paying this amount every month, that's all that matters. No, get out of that mindset. Start with your overall budget before you even think about which car you want. And it means figuring out what you can comfortably spend on a car based on your actual income and expenses, not what a lender tells you you can borrow or what you can finance, but what genuinely works for your own financial situation. The first rule you must not break is to spend no more than 10 to 15% of your monthly take-home pay on all car expenses combined. For example, let's say your take-home pay is £2,000. That means that your total monthly car cost should be maximum £200 to £300, not more than £300, and that includes everything: MOT, maintenance, fuel, insurance, everything. And I know that might sound low to some people, especially if you're used to seeing people either in person or on social media driving fancy cars. But trust me, this will save you from serious money troubles. Another useful rule to follow is the 50% rule, where the total price of your car should be no more than half of your annual income. So if you earn £30,000 a year, your car budget tops should be around 15,000, not 25k. Not, but the dealer gave me this deal. No, not that. Just £15,000. And that's even pushing it if you have other financial goals, which I'm sure you probably do. And these two rules I just spoke about is not one or the other. It's both. You must pass both rules to know that you are in a financially strong position. And in most cases, unless you are putting down a big deposit, it's going to be really hard to finance a car and stay under 50% of your income and keep all your monthly costs also at the same time under 15%, which is exactly why buying used and paying in cash, if you can, is actually very important. No one ever got rich by flexing the biggest car in their neighborhood that they can't even really afford. Another rule of thumb that's similar to this 1550 rule is the 24-10 rule. And it says you put 20% down as a deposit, your finance term should be no more than 4 years, and you keep your total transportation cost under 10% of your gross income. So for example, you find a car you like and you know you have to finance the car, and the car costs 10,000. So 20% of that will be £2,000 upfront, and then you finance the remaining 8,000 for no more than 4 years. And the total cost of running that car should not be more than 10% of your gross income. And of course, these rules needs to be adjusted for your situation. For example, if you have low living costs and no other debt, you might afford a bit more. You might be a lot more flexible. But if you're, for example, saving for a house deposit, or you have childcare costs, you might actually need to be more conservative with these rules. And the key with this flexibility is actually to be honest with yourself about what you can actually afford. If you're finding this tip useful, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friend. It might actually save a life. I remember when I moved to the UK and wanted to buy a car for our family, we could have easily afforded a better car. But following these rules, we bought a beat down Ford Focus and we drove that car. We enjoyed that car until we realized that the cost of fixing the car at the yearly MOT was much more than or almost the same cost as the value of the car. That was when we decided, okay, we need to let this car go, right? And we sold the car for, I think, for about £1,000 then. And then we planned to buy another car. We followed this same rule. We could have gotten a much more expensive car because at this time we were doing a lot better, right? But then we stuck to the Skoda Octavia, following these same rules of not buying much more than our budget could afford at the time. And we've been with the car ever since. The car works fine and we are still driving and enjoying the car, right? Now let's talk about the real costs of owning a car in the UK. There are 6 major cost categories to consider when buying a car, and this is where a lot of people make the mistake. Most people only think about 1 or 2, and that's why they end up overspending. The first is insurance. In the UK, it's non-negotiable and can be a significant chunk of your annual car budget. It's dependent on the car, is dependent on the driver, and the average premium in the UK is around £600 per year or £50 per month. But some people find themselves paying even as high as £1,000, £2,000 per year for their car insurance. I think in my case, in my family's case, the highest we've paid is around £600 for our insurance. The next cost will be fuel costs. Whether you are looking at petrol, diesel, electric, this is going to be an ongoing cost and it could add up fast. A typical driver in the UK doing around 8,000 miles a year in a medium car might spend around 1,200 annually on just fuel. Diesel would have their costs. Look at what the consumption of the car you want to get and see if you could get something else that's a lot cheaper. Electric vehicles are the in thing now and they have a lot lower fuel costs because electricity is quite cheap, right? There is that trade-off in electric cars of spending more to buy the car itself. The third cost that you should look out for is road tax. In the UK, there's an annual road tax that is based off of your car's CO2 emission. Most drivers actually pay around £165 to £180 per year. The fourth expense is maintenance and MOT. MOT is just about keeping your car roadworthy, right? And depends on the car, depends on how the car is. Every MOT you could spend a lot more. So if you just budget a couple £100 for the annual MOT service and all, even though the MOT itself is around £55, changing other things like tires, brake pad, servicing would go into a couple hundred pounds, which might be around £20 to £30 every month. The fifth expense that you're going to pay but you might not consider is actually called depreciation. This is not a bill that you pay out of pocket to someone, but it's a real cost to you, right? So if you buy a car for £15,000, for example, today, in 3 years time it might be worth £8,000, and that means you've effectively spent £7,000 on that car. New cars typically lose 15 to 20% of their value in the first year and maybe up to 50% in 3 years. And cars that hold their value would actually save you a lot more money in the long run compared to the ones that actually lose their value quite quick. The final cost, which might not apply to everyone, will be financing costs. So if you're buying outright, there's no interest to pay, there's nothing like car loan. But for the majority of people that would finance their car one way or another, there is a financing cost and that could add up. So you need to actually look at that very carefully. I did a video comparing all the different ways that you can actually buy a car. So if you are going into the market, you want to look at them watch that video, look at which one would be best for you and your situation, or which one would save you the most money, right? That we want to be making that kind of choice. For the general rule of thumb with financing is the bigger down payment you put and the less you borrow, the less interest you would pay. There are also other costs like parking permit, congestion charge, and all of that fun stuff if you drive in central London, right? But knowing this cost upfront is actually empowering. So the question, the $1,000,000 question, how much car can you really afford? The brutal truth is this: it's probably a lot less than what you want. You want a Ferrari, then you need to manage a Skoda, right? But the powerful payoff of accepting this reality is financial freedom, it's peace of mind. For some people, it's the end of money anxiety, all because you chose a car that truly fits your life and not a fantasy that has been sold to you by social media, by the salespeople. If this video saved you from a potential financial disaster, or you know someone that this can save, please subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone that you love so they don't make this costly mistake. Also, get in the comment section and tell me what you think. Until next time, choose financial peace over expensive metals that would cost you your future.